looking through these gorgeous mountain roads. I have never driven anything quite like this, especially coming from Nebraska and Florida. You guys know where I'm from. Look at this. And here is the all new 22 Civic Si. This is the blazing orange color. This is exclusive to the new Si. And we're just going to do a walk around, then we'll get on the inside and then we'll drive this bad boy. So on the front, there's not a whole lot new going on compared to the Civic sedan. However, you see the Si badge up front, and you also see a honeycomb grille that is very similar to the Civic hatchback. Now, the Civic Si is only in sedan form. The hatchback will be the Type R, and you can get essentially the Civic Si and the new Integra, which is a hatchback. But we're not going to talk about the Integra, get you guys too fired up today. This is all about the new Si. We have beautiful matte black 18-inch wheels, and the mirrors are also like a glossy black to match all the black accents on it. There's black window surround, and it makes this vehicle, especially in this blazing orange, just look very menacing, very Halloween-esque. And we do have bigger brakes on here. I forgot to mention that. So not only do we have these really nice summer tires, which is a $200 option on these 18-inch wheels, you have about 1 inch bigger rotor in the front and the rear compared to the Civic sedan. So that's really nice to see. I haven't got too much into the brakes into these mountains, believe it or not. Just been kind of hovering around 35 miles per hour flying through the mountains. The new Civic Si also has this black wing on the back, a little bit different compared to the normal sedan. We have oval tip exhaust. This exhaust allows for about 25%, maybe a little bit more exhaust flow compared to the sedan. And it sounds really, really good. And it wouldn't be a Civic without some good trunk space. As you guys can see, you can also fold down these seats with these levers, which I'm not going to do for you guys, but you get the idea. Getting under the hood of the new Si, it's not a whole lot new under here. As I prop up this aluminum hood with my head because my arm is holding the gimbal, we do have a Civic Si driving right there. They're all in blazing orange on this press event here outside of LA in the mountains. But anyways, 1.5 liter, just like the original 1986 Civic Si. Now that had about 90 horsepower, a little bit more maybe. This has 200 horse. Now you might be saying, Kirk, the outgoing Si had 205 horse. Well, it might be down on paper, but I tell you what, across the rev range, it's a different animal. We also have a lighter flywheel in here, which will give us a little bit more aggressive throttle response. Will it help with the rev hang? Well, you'll just have to wait and see when we start driving it. I just found the window sticker of this vehicle tucked in right there. So I want to go over some of the things in here. 31 miles per gallon. I'm not going to be getting that in the mountains. It is built in Alliston, Ontario, where they build the Civic sedan, go figure. And feel free to pause right here so you guys can see all the individual details of this new Civic Si. Now, getting on the inside of the new Civic Si, it is a very familiar experience. The doors feel fairly hollow, as you would expect in a low-cost Civic. It is pretty warm in here. I'm going to start the engine, foot on the clutch. Tacks go off. We have a 7-inch MID on the left there, and then a traditional analog speedometer on the right, as well as a digital speedometer in the middle. Now, if I press the home button on the steering wheel, that's going to bring up all these different things I can select: audio, phone, turbo gauge in this Si, which is pretty cool to see. Let's just do some revs at idle here. It doesn't let me redline it, even though the engine's warmed up. Doesn't let me redline here in neutral. I can have the navigation. I've been using Android Auto, as you guys can see, and the turn-by-turn's been coming up here in the tachometer screen, which is pretty cool. Throttle and brake controls. So here I am pressing on the brake. You can see it's giving us some PSI numbers, and then here's the throttle. It's pretty cool. Range and fuel is what I'm going to leave it on for now. We also have this beautiful honeycomb grille, and here in the Si, it is covered with a red metallic sort of trim. A couple charging ports. I have Android Auto plugged in, USB, so I can charge my phone since I don't have wireless charging. However, you do have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto up here with this 9-inch screen. Same 9-inch screen that we have on the Sport Touring and Touring trims of the sedan and hatchback. So that's really nice. And we also, as a result, have the upgraded, I think it's a 12-speaker Bose system. Sounds pretty decent in here. We do have black and red accented SI seats, which this is the only interior option. Now the cloth seats are actually really comfortable. They held me in place, as we'll find out when we do some driving. They're pretty supportive. And real quick in the back seat, just a little bit of red stitching on the seats, not a whole lot of extra attention there. And there's a good amount of legroom back there, like I've shown in my sedan review of the Honda Civic with the CVT. 6-speed manual is standard and the only thing you can get here on the Civic Si. And let me tell you, this thing is buttery smooth. I'll tell you more about it when we get into the driving. We also have a driving mode switch, which here's a sport mode. It actually stiffens the steering. And then we also have an individual mode for the first time. We do not have adaptive dampers in here like the outgoing Civic, which is fine with me. This drives a million times better than the outgoing Civic. I just drove that car this morning and I was not impressed. Steering wheel has beautiful red stitching and a really firm and sticky surface to it. We do have auto windows up front, normal windows in the back, and a nice little plastic chevron detail around the window switchgear. Also have a sunroof in here, which is a very welcome addition on this Si. Finally driving the new Si, and through these mountain roads, you can't go very fast unless you want to die. So you're going about 25 to 35 miles an hour and just carving through these mountain roads. And this is exactly where I wanted to take the Civic sedan, the Civic hatchback, is that those cars just handled so well and were so precise that I wanted somewhere that I could push them. And now I have the ultimate version of them until the Type R comes out, and this new Si. Getting into the brakes, even though these have bigger brakes, it still has, of course, that same great Honda brake feel, especially the brake feel and the newest Civics. And I haven't got into them too much. Like I said, I'm not going all that fast. I'm just trying to keep my momentum between 25 to 35 miles per hour. I'm in third gear most of the time. I'm not really shifting gears. We'll play with that later in a normal situation where I can actually roll through the gears a little bit. But the steering is stiffer in here. I can flip it into sport mode. It's going to make the steering just a little bit stiffer. I don't really notice it. It might get stiffer, especially at higher speeds, but since I'm going so slow, I just don't feel the difference here. Now, I mentioned earlier this does not have adaptive dampers, which I'm glad it doesn't. It doesn't need them. They've made the spring stiffer front and back, especially in the back compared to the normal sedan. And this says 15 miles an hour, right? So like I can't push it too hard, but I'll just put it into third and we'll just kind of cruise around here. Yeah, there's more structural adhesive. I could keep going. Just know that it's a much stiffer ride than the outgoing Civic Si, especially. Like I drove the outgoing Si this morning and that car felt like 15, 20 years old compared to these new Civics, especially this Si. There's a ton of body roll. The shifter, it's a good shifter, but it just didn't feel very precise. This shifter is maybe the best shifter I've ever felt in a manual transmission car. And that's saying a lot because I really like the Mazda MX-5 shifter. This just feels a little bit more precise. The throws are 10% shorter compared to the Civic hatchback manual transmission. It's just an absolute masterpiece of a shifter. The torque feels good climbing up these hills. I just leave it in third and I let this turbocharged 4-cylinder do the rest of the work. And it's, there it goes, just digging out of like 1200 RPM there, no problem. These blind corners are a little bit sketch, I'm not gonna lie. You don't know the severity of the turn, and then you could just fly off a cliff if you're not paying attention or not doing the right things. My gosh, this view is just insane. There's some property here for sale on the edge of a cliff if you want to buy it. But man, with a view like that, maybe you do. I just don't know how you would build a house on a cliff. Someone's figured it out on the top of this mountain ridge. My gosh, they're living life to the fullest, that's for dang sure. You know what? I'm also living life to the fullest, vlogging the Civic Si around these mountain roads. Earlier, going up the mountain, there was 3 SIs in a row, and there's a pickup truck in front of us, and we were all just kind of pent up, waiting to get through. Pickup truck took a left, we took a right, and man, it was intense. And I'm still feeling a little queasy from it, and I'm not going to be pushing this thing that hard in this test drive just because I feel still a little nauseous. But anyways, this car it's a lot of fun. It kind of reminded me of taking the TLX Type S through like Laguna Seca with the dips, the like natural corkscrews. It was a lot of fun, and I'm having a lot of fun here, as you guys can see. But there's that perfect downshift that the car just does for you, and it's quite satisfying. So I'll do it again here. We're in third. There it is. There's that next rev matching downshift. We'll go into third again, so you guys get an idea. There's that second. It's just so good. It's like cheating. It feels like a video game. There's nothing wrong with that. It makes it more fun to drive, and that's what this Civic Si is all about. And we'll do a little 0 to 60 here on the new Civic Si. I'm gonna rev it to about 2,500 RPM and go. There's 60. And that's kind of what I was expecting, around 7 to 8 seconds. So we got 7.97 seconds 0 to 60. Even though it does have the rev hang, I don't feel like it chirps the wheels or the shifts are as hard on the vehicle as it is on the Civic hatchback with that heavier flywheel. So the rev hang isn't as aggressive, but it's still there. And it's not the most encouraging car to shift gears quick in, kind of like the Civic hatchback. But the shifter's a lot better in this car than it is in that car. It's still good in there. Okay, so we're going about 60, and I'm in 5th gear. Let's go to 6th gear. You guys want to hear that rev matching, so here we go. Auto rev matching from the Civic Type R. So there's 4th, there's 3rd. This turn says 35 miles an hour. We'll slow down a little bit. It says do not pass. And here's 2nd. Perfect 2nd gear. It's just so satisfying. It feels like we're cheating. God, this shifter is a freaking masterpiece. I can't believe how much I like it. It's so good. Makes me so happy. So a little straightaway here, downshift to 5th, downshift to 4th. It just does it all. There's 3rd and a little hammer. It still wants you to shift kind of slow, which is so funny because the shifter is so good. The engine is so peppy with that lighter flywheel. And this is going to be our lunch destination here on the right. I believe they filmed the first Fast and the Furious movie here and some other movies. Like this is like world famous area. Neptune's Net. That is where we are pulling in for lunch. And I'm very excited. I hear they have good fish and chips. I don't know if I want fish and chips after feeling a little car sick on our adventure today. Now, if you ever go to Neptune's Net, where I just left, you gotta get the ahi tuna salad. I talked to the guys at Savage Geese, Mark and Jack, and Mark really liked his fish and chips. We're in Malibu. Population, 13,000 people. I would assume there'd be more people in Malibu, but what do I know from Nebraska? Now, cruising going about 60, you do have a decent amount of road noise. It's not annoying though, because this is more of a performance street car. The wind noise is quite minimal, to be honest. You don't hear a lot of the cars going by. You don't hear a lot of wind buffeting off the mirrors. The comfort of these red accented seats is spot on. Sometimes cloth can be a little scratchy. Not getting that vibe here. And the bolsters are perfect for me. And the manual, you don't have power adjustable seats. I'm looking in my rearview mirror and I see my GoPro bouncing around a bit, and that's because of the added stiffness, especially the spring rate stiffness is about 8 to 10% stiffer in the front and like 50% stiffer in the rear compared to the normal Civic sedan. And to be honest, I really haven't noticed how stiff it is out here on the streets. Evidence of my camera kind of shaking around back there definitely lets you know that you're in a more performance-minded vehicle. And we're gonna do some rev matching downshifts here. Fourth. Getting into the brakes. That brake feel is spot on, so linear. Even when you're downshifting with the rev matching downshifts, oh, it's just, okay, let's go through the gears here. I'm gonna shift smoothly. Yeah, there's still that rev hang. Yep, it's, you kind of have to baby it. Summarizing the 2022 Civic Si, it handles like a complete razor blade. I was very impressed how the Civic hatchback and Civic sedan handled. This being a stiffer ride, of course, is going to handle better. Its acceleration out of the turns is more responsive with the limited slip differential. The auto rev matching downshifts as I go up this hill, just downshifting to 5th gear to get me up that hill a little bit easier. The torque is good, and although it is down 5 horsepower than the outgoing one, no one is ever going to notice that. People get so hung up on the numbers. The power is definitely more noticeable. I drove the SI, the old SI, last year's SI this morning. This one feels a lot more responsive, a little bit more power, a little bit more torque as you climb through the rev range. The upgraded brakes compared to the normal sedan are just a masterpiece, as well as this shifter. The shifter is so precise, so accurate, so light in between, and they're so short. 10% shorter shifts compared to the Civic hatchback, and it is just an absolute pleasure. The steering is incredibly precise, and it feels a lot stiffer in here than it does in the sedan or the normal hatchback. So is this the best Civic Si ever? Like I said, I haven't driven that many, but I would have to say it is the best Civic available right now. And that's saying a lot because I couldn't find anything to really gripe on the CVT or the manual transmission model about in the hatchback. This thing is just so well-rounded, it's so smooth, it's so good. It is just plagued by that one little thing. I know it does have the lighter flywheel in here. Ability to shift gears quick isn't as jarring as it is in the Civic hatchback, but you still have that rev hang, and it is a bit unfortunate because if it didn't have it, this car would be absolutely perfect. Instead, no car is perfect, and until maybe the Civic Type R remedies that, but that's a completely different beast, completely different price point. Speaking of which, this comes in after destination in the low 28s, which is a screaming deal for how good this car is. But guys, I'm gonna end it there. This car isn't about straight line speed, it's about the total package. Great handling, great looks, great braking, fun and excellent 6-speed gearbox. We just have a little bit of rev hang to deal with. And lastly, the features that they've baked into this Si are, touring or sport touring quality as whoa, this is cool. You guys, should I roll down the windows? Oh, can't roll down that window, but you couldn't really hear anything in that tunnel. It's not like revving an LC500 or downshifting an LC500 in a tunnel, or if you have like an inline 4 or like a V-twin motorcycle. It's not going to sound anything like that. It sounded pretty uneventful back there. But yeah, the 9-inch touchscreen, the wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. We have the sunroof in here. We no longer have the heated seats, which was kind of a bummer. We do have the really nice 7-inch MID behind the steering wheel that is not really customizable too much, but it gives you a lot of information. It's very responsive. The comfort in here is good. Unfortunately, the blazing orange paint color does not go well with these red seats. If I was getting an SI, it'd be the blue color or any other color really, just not this orange. Even though this orange is dead sexy, just does not go with this red interior. I couldn't live with it. Anyways, guys, I have nothing else to say about the Civic Si except that an engaging and fun daily driver. It's even better than the Civic hatchback 6-speed manual, and I can't wait to drive the Acura Integra, because this is kind of a snapshot into the future of that car, because that has the exact same setup. It has the exact same soul and identity as the Civic Si. It's not a bad thing, because this car is so damn good. Can you imagine a better interior Civic Si with a hatchback? That's essentially what the new Integra is going to be. Anyways, guys, don't want to get too far ahead of myself. If you enjoyed today's video, smash the like button, subscribe for more Honda news and reviews. Acura as well, of course. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.